Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the Path of Rage and this week's Star Citizen coverage. We got a lot to go over, so let's get right into it. Last week saw the game go to PTU for all backers to finally try out the 3.24 test bed with the new cargo hangars, the freight elevators, all of that kind of thing. As of Thursday, when it went live for everybody, I was able to play it for quite some time, no problems whatsoever. Completed several different mission types. I had a couple of minor quote-unquote Star Citizen bugs, but nothing game-breaking until I logged out. However, the next day, on Friday, the patch that they put out apparently broke the game entirely, and they completely reverted it back to the previous patch. One change that they did make was to the item banks. Now, instead of the way the drawer was working and what was basically adding a useless step to getting your inventory out and equipping it, they've now reverted it back to clicking on the item bank basically brings up the old inventory screen. So you double click on your items in there. We lost the search button with it, but CIG has said that this is a temporary revert to an older form of the item banks because the way it was working wasn't quite what we wanted and wasn't quite what they wanted. So we'll have to see how that one goes. Now, as of the recording of this video, they're planning another patch for release tonight on Monday to further update it, and they'll be looking to play test the new blockade mission that will put players against each other and AI trying to ferry cargo through a blockaded station. So we'll see how that plays out and what kind of data that they'll get from it. In the meantime, though, it is available to all backers. So if you're able to get in on it, I highly suggest you give it a try now that you can and see how monumental a change these freight elevators and personal cargo hangars are for the game. On a related note, there is currently a free fly going on in the live environment for anyone at all who wants to try the game out, who will be given a bunch of ships to give a try, including the ones in the ship showdown right now. I think that's 16 ships. So again, if you haven't tried this game out yet, then that will be running till the 22nd of this week, and jump in, give it a go, see what you think. This month also saw the SQ42 monthly update go up for us to check it over, and while I'm not going to go over every single bullet point in all of the monthly report, I am going to bring out ones that kind of stood out to me. First up, with the AI features team, they fixed a bunch of bugs for the AI in the SQ42, including two that jump out here, where one would allow the NPCs to see through buildings, and another one that using the multi-tool would give them infinite ammunition in repair mode. They also added in a significant piece of new functionality called AI groups, where this allows the devs to more easily control how NPCs are brought into fights and how they work together. So that should be a big improvement, and hopefully that'll be something we also see ported over to the persistent universe. The AI tech team implemented new behavior for AI pilots exiting the EVA and fixed issues with NPCs using EVA. The AI team also focused on the social aspects of the AI, such as having inspection phases for engineers to be more dynamic in looking like they're actually working, how the day and night cycle on the ship affects where the popular areas are with AI and how many of them there are there at a given time, the idle animations that they might have. They went over a comprehensive visual pass on conversations, dynamic ones, making sure that even if there isn't an active dialogue, but you can see the NPCs, it'll appear to be a conversation is going on between them. Basically, stuff to make the goings on of the AI around you look more believable and realistic. The gameplay features team was improving the control surfaces, working on traversal markers in 0G, which will depend on whether you have a thruster pack or not. If you have a thruster pack, they'll only show up when you're closer to the surface, and they were working on multifunction displays as well. The gameplay story team continued to maintain and improve scenes throughout the entirety of the game, the single-player game, from early chapters to later ones, such as extending a barrack scene that made it 10 times longer, apparently. A pass was done on a scene in a corridor, as specific as that sounds. A console in a scene in Chapter 11 was adjusted to be the correct one. Things like that. All, again, improving the gameplay flow of a scene in the single-player. The narrative team continued testing their work on the in-game Galactopedia and fixing user experience improvements. They were also naming all the NPCs that were placed by the designers in the game and their ships, and continuing to do playthroughs of the game to fine-tune when narrative content triggers and plays. The UI team spent the month polishing in-world screens, optimizing levels to improve frame rate. They made updates to the player visor. They also improved Alien UI, apparently, ensuring it tells a story and feels noticeably different to the human sci-fi screen. So that'll be cool. I think those of you out there, pardon me, who have the alien ships in the game, this will be something for you to keep an eye out when this might get ported over to the PTU as well, because again, this is SQ42. And finally, the VFX team continued polishing the game and all the various effects in the game, which is only to be expected. That's not going to stop ever, even once the game gets released. Next up, we have Inside Star Citizen, which was focusing on the upcoming Pyro system and various locations within it, how people live and survive there, the difference between these areas and the high security areas of Stanton. These locations will have multiple missions available per area, allowing players to remain in that location for longer while doing these missions, as opposed to always going to another location entirely, as it currently is in Stanton. These locations will vary in style. Some will be frontier-style farms and fields, while others will be scrapyards. Farms will be in open, plains-like areas with fields of harvestables around them, and we'll have a whole quote-unquote living in the middle of nowhere but doing our best to thrive type of vibe to them. They'll also contain some new missions that will focus on things like equipment repairing, harvesting crops, and other non-combat types of missions. Scrapyards, on the other hand, will be locations where you can repair and refit your vehicles that aren't the main stations or the LEOs. These are heavily industrial looking areas with landing pits in them for ships, and not only will you be able to refit your ships there, you'll be able to do repair missions for the scrapyard itself as well. These will be hand salvage missions, repairing machinery and so on, and it's important to note, this being the Pyro system, these scrapyards don't have security and there's no ATC to contact. You will land, you will refit, you'll do missions all at your own risk, just like everywhere else in the system. Trade posts are another location that's coming in 4.0, and these are the areas for shopping for everything you need to survive in the Pyro system, along with missions that are heavily focused on hauling and delivery. These trade centers will be run by the various factions and will offer different commodities based both on the controlling faction as well as the actual location itself, with a cold location offering more cold focused gear, for example. These trade posts will have defenses as well to ward off hostiles, and they will vary in layout and design from a homey, artisanal, frontier, Wild West type of vibe to others that look like something ripped out of a post-apocalyptic dystopia. Overall, the player experience in Pyro is shaping up to be quite a bit different to what we're currently able to enjoy Stanton, and the devs have said that some of the stuff that's going to be coming into Pyro will also make its way over to Stanton, but not in 4.0. This is all going to be in 4.0 for the first iteration. Now, moving on to Star Citizen Live, this was all about the new contested zones and asteroid bases that will also hopefully be coming with 4.0. Regarding the asteroid bases, when asked how these areas would differ from the current underground bunkers and if they would only be for a single type of mission on a loop, the devs said that there would be more types of bases than bunkers. Some will be occupied, some won't. Some will entail combat, while others will make use of environment puzzles, for example. The devs said that these bases will only be like derelict or abandoned to start, but the plan is to further flesh them out to have a variety of bases, such as gas stations, for example. These bases will remain where they are and are not just spawned for a mission and removed once the player leaves, or closed up once the player leaves. And you will be able to go and explore them as you wish, even without a mission. The asteroid bases are not currently planned to have hangars and spaces capable of docking capital class ships on first iteration, and CIG has said that they are unlikely to do so in the future, short of docking tubes. That'll be a likely thing in the future. However, that will not be coming in 4.0. Jared and the other devs on this episode also hinted that these bases might also be player-owned living spaces in the future. Time will tell on that one. That was a juicy one for them to drop on us. Now, as for the contested zones, these are the ones that are located within the big main pyro stations, and these will be that almost extraction mode style gameplay that CIG is bringing in. They're planning on starting out with 5 of these contested zones in Pyro to start, and they won't all be immediately accessible to players, as we will have to do certain missions, go to certain locations, or find certain items first in order to do so. The devs were asked about how they were planning to ensure that these new contested zones won't have obvious and easily camped bottlenecks, and they said that there will be multiple entry points into the area, both from within and outside the station. Players will also be able to access multiple exfiltration points within the zones themselves. As a side note, these exfil points, along with respawning enemies, traps and such, these are all going to help prevent situations where players will get killed in the zone, respawn right next door in the social area, and come right back to where they died a minute later. CIG has also said that the deeper into the zone you are, the harder it will be for an enemy you've just killed to come racing back for revenge. Again, because all of this stuff will be respawning, and there will be other players and NPCs in there. So it's not just going to be die, rush right back. Players should keep in mind, though, that these will be heavily PvP-focused spaces in the game, so you should absolutely expect conflict within them. These areas, like I said, honestly sound like the Star Citizen version of an extraction shooter to me, and I'm absolutely down with it. I can't wait. It's got the downfall of having to be in completely lawless systems to get to, but hey, we're going to have to give this a try because it sounds awesome. They said that while solo runs are technically possible, put that in big quotes, CIG is recommending that at least 2 people make runs for these raids. Current testing is being done with 5 to 6 man teams, with plans ongoing to make some runs have up to 40 people in a zone at a time. These contested zones will vary in difficulty and available loot, and players will be able to go on quick get in, get out raids in the early areas of the zone to much longer and more involved raids requiring more planning and effort deeper in. The devs said that the first iteration of these zones will not have any manipulation of the environment, such as turning off gravity, but that things like that will be possible down the road once the resource networking and engineering gameplay comes to the PTU. Now, one other thing that really stood out to me in this Star Citizen Live, and again, like I suggest with Star Citizen Live and Inside Star Citizen every week, go and watch them to catch up on any info that I might have missed or something that I might have said here and mistranslated. But this next little bit here is the one that really caught my attention when it comes to these zones, because it goes to the larger topic of loot in this game. The devs said that some of the loot in these contested zones will be items that cannot be attained in any other location, in either Pyro or Stanton. And they said such as like specific variants of ship components. They didn't go into much more detail than that, but they did make it very clear that the risks that players will be taking going into these contested zones will very much be worth it. That is not the case right now with most loot in the game. That has been my general and feeling pretty much across the board. Every once in a while you come across something that's really cool, but nothing that makes you go, I want to do this mission because I know there's going to be some cool loot in it. This is going to make that entirely different. Now you're going to be able to go into these contested zones and actually bring out like quantum drives that will change how your ship goes, and like whether they're military or racing. This is really, really cool. I like this direction that they're going with. The zones also will have a version of the freight elevators in them so that players can extract these items more easily. As soon as they said that, I had this image in my head of somebody finding a quantum drive or a shield generator on the floor and trying to run back through all the NPCs and traps and enemy players coming into the zone while, you know, trying to grav something along with a multi-tool. Yeah, these freight elevators are going to be probably contested areas within these contested areas. So I wonder how they're going to handle that. In any case, that is our news roundup for this week in Star Citizen and what has gone down. I hope that once you guys check this out, if you haven't played the game yet, I hope that you do go and download it and try the free flag. See what it's like. Those of you who are backers and haven't yet jumped into 324, please jump in, and then everybody sound off in the comments and let me know, what are your experiences with this game? Do you like this direction and where it's going? I'd love to hear more from you. In the meantime, I've been Rayjack Games. If you thought I did a good job on this, give me a thumbs up. If not, a thumbs down. Sound off as always about this game and anything about it in the comments. Subscribe if you're new to help me grow the channel and beat that ridiculous YouTube algorithm. And until next time, I'll see you in the verse. Bye-bye.